Hey everyone, I'm back and it's only been 2 weeks, unlike last video where it was like months. Anyway, I did want to say thank you to everyone who commented and said they were glad to see me back because I really appreciated that. And also thanks to everyone who subscribed because I now have over 100 subscribers. I think I got 22 subscribers from my last video, which is the most I've ever gotten from a video. So apparently the way to get subscribers is to go away for several months and then be like, I'm just gonna wing it when you get back. So yeah, we're also kind of winging this video, so we'll see how that goes. Lily is on the arm of the couch behind me, so the odds of barking happening sometime during this video is a lot higher than last video when I think she was probably sleeping on my bed the whole time. She can see out the window from here, and when people go by, she, of course, has to let them know that that is her sidewalk. So, what have I done in the last 2 weeks? Well, it's been cooler, so I've done a lot of yarn stuff, but I have done some stitching, which I'm going to show you now. I have two kind of mini finishes with that. I wish I had more. I probably could have gotten more done, but I just wasn't really in the mood, so I didn't try too hard. So this is my heart hanger piece, the Round and Circle Stitch Along by Mabel Figworthy. And I finished, okay, it's kind of on the edge of my Q-snap right now. I took it half off the frame so you could see this. So this was the August round. As you can see, there's some silver beads and a lot of white, and then some silver wrapping on these bars here. Came out very nice. I really like these beads in the middle of that. And then, it looks like this particular butterfly here, the beads did not really agree with being in the Q-snap, so I will fix that when the whole project is done. So, which is, it's weird because that's like the butterfly that wasn't really in the snap. And the two that were like really under it are fine. That's weird. Anyway, we'll fix that later. I'm not gonna worry about that. So then I went and I did, this is the September block. Let's see if I can show this. Okay, it's like me and it all in the frame. So again, we've got, you know, cut work and some silver wrapping on some of those. I'm going to kind of angle it so hopefully you can see the sparkle. And I really like this 5 eyelet combination thing in the middle. The pattern originally called for that to be in purl number 8, because the pattern includes options to do it with multiple colors of thread or with just white and a metallic. And so this was supposed to be purl number 8. I'm using silver petite treasure braid, and I opted to use 2 strands. I've been using 1 strand where the pattern calls for the petite treasure braid, and 2 strands anytime it calls for the number 8 cotton, because I think that's closer to the correct size. So it's a pretty bold silver. Oh, and the whole thing is done on white heart hanger cloth, which is the traditional 22 count. So there's that. I still have to do October's block, and then I've got the circles for November and December done. So, got a ways to go. I kind of go back and forth on this pattern. I really, really like it, but sometimes it's, well, not sometimes, pretty much always it's more complex to do than cross-stitching, because with cross-stitching it's just crosses, whereas with this I have to pay attention to the stitches for pretty much everything. So, basically, I have to concentrate more on it. Like, if I'm tired, I can still cross-stitch pretty accurately, like 99% of the time, but if I'm tired, it's a lot harder to do this one. And I've not been letting myself switch projects, because I know if I switch projects, I'm not going to go back to this one. So anyway, that's what I've done for stitching, is I've gotten two of the motifs done on my heart hanger project, and I'm hoping to get the next one done soon. And then I have several finishes on the knitting and crochet side of things. So I think I showed you last time I was making these baby booties, which I hadn't woven in the ends and I hadn't put the buttons on. So this is one pair with little heart buttons and cross straps. very adorable. I don't remember what the pattern is called off the top of my head. I will have links to all of my project pages on Ravelry down below, and those will have the name and the designer and a link to the pattern. And so this one, I was running out of yarn, so I made a slightly smaller ones with one strap, and I put little flower buttons on those. I was originally more excited about the 2-strap ones, but I actually think these are cuter. Anyway, these are going to go, every year when I go back up to my parents, I take a bag of donation stuff to the homeless resource center near them that takes everything, because they have people that need everything. So those are going to go up there. They're just done in a pink acrylic that I had, and I don't actually know anything about it other than it's a fingering weight acrylic. I also had a white fingering weight acrylic that I didn't know anything about, that I made these fingerless gloves in crochet out of. I also can't, the name of this pattern is just fingerless gloves, but I can't remember who designed it. Again, I'll have the link down below and you can look at that. Now, these are just a hair too small for me, but I can kind of get them on, so I'm going to go ahead and put them on to show you, but they'll fit someone else a little bit better. So, this is a really well-designed pattern, really well-designed. So you can kind of see there's going to be a lot more gappy with me than there would be. I think it looks better when it's less stretched, but it's pretty stretched on me because it's a little bit too small. But again, this is going to go to the donations, so this is going to go, I have slightly larger than medium, like I'm somewhere between medium and large in gloves usually, so I expect this will fit most people. But what I really like about this is it's brilliantly designed. So there's, you know, the sleeve, which I can't pull all the way down because again, these are a little too small, but you just add stitches here, little shell stitches here to make room for the thumb, and then and it worked out perfectly because it fits your hand really well. And then when you do the last round at the top of both the thumb and the hand, it's just a tiny bit tighter than the rest of the glove, which really helps hold that to your hand, because sometimes this style of fingerless glove where there's nothing between your fingers tends to like gap open, and this does not at all, because this is just a hair tighter than the rest of it. So I like these. They're very cute. They're actually surprisingly warm for a fingerless glove made out of acrylic that's lacy. So I'm glad of that. And I'm going to take these gloves that are a little bit too big for me off. Or a little bit too small for me. So anyway, I'm very pleased with those. I made these in just about a week. The first one probably took me about 5 days, and the second one took me like 2 days. I did like from here to here yesterday, and I did this before I filmed this video actually. So I got those done, which I was very pleased about. Now let's talk about the rest of my knitting, which are not done, but making progress on, that I have random needles stabbed through. So these are the Rose City Roller socks that I was knitting. And when last I showed them to you, I had one sock that I had done the cuff and the heel and the gusset, but not the foot. So I've done the foot since then. And then I had another one, because I'm doing them kind of with the method that Dana from Little Bobbins Knits uses, where she does, like, you do the cuff on both of them, and then you do the heel on both of them, and then you do the gusset on, you know. And I like it because it helps me keep everything exactly the same. But anyway, this sock I had done like the cuff and then the heel, but I hadn't done the gusset. So I've done the gusset and the foot, and they're both matching up very nicely, as you can see. The yarn is an Opal Fan und Elfen. They don't give me a name for the exact colorway within this. That's a problem with Opal, is they don't do exact colorway names. So, And the needles are just random size 2 needles. So those are coming along nicely. The only thing is, I'd done these to the point where the designer said to stop, which was, she says 2 inches before the end of your foot, or about the base of your pinky toe. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, these look just a little bit shorter than the other socks I've done. And so I measured, and first of all, from the tip of my foot to the base of my pinky toe is closer to 2.5 inches than 2 inches. So that's one issue. And then the other issue that I had was I'm not using the exact gauge that the designer calls for. I'm using a gauge and stitch count that I know works. And that's I'm using a 64 stitch and 8.5 stitches per inch. And so I think the pattern was 8 stitches per inch. So I'm using her 64 stitch count, but because I know that fits my foot, but obviously with different gauge, so things were going to come out slightly different sides. So I calculated, and the toe that I want to do, which is the rounded toe, is only about 1.5 inches long. So first of all, I stopped at the base of my pinky toe, which is apparently shorter, further from the end of my foot than it is on other people. And the toe's going to be shorter. So yes, I'm super glad I checked that before I just was like, I'm going to start the toe. So I just need to knit these a tiny bit more, like, you know, maybe that much more, and then do the toe. So that's my plan with them, and I'm actually really glad that I'm filming at this point, because then I can move these markers that showed where I was up to here, which will make it a lot easier for me to keep them even and keep track of how many rounds I do to get them to the correct length, which for me is going to be, I measured with my foot again just because I wanted to see with that 1.5 inch toe where that would be, so that's going to be about the base of my nail on my pinky toe instead of where my pinky toe starts. So that's that one. Oh, and I mentioned that it was the Rose City Rollers, and I forgot to mention that the designer is Orange Knits Designs. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. And like I said, I have links, so if you want to go check the pattern out, you can totally do that. I picked it because I wanted ankle socks, and I had seen a ton of people doing the Rose City Rollers and saying that they were awesome. And it's true, they really are a nice pattern. I've also done a little bit of work on my metallurgy shawl, which is by Very Busy Monkey. So last time you saw it, this thing tangles on itself like nothing else. A very little bit of work. Last time you saw it, I had finished the garter stitch body of the shawl and just started the knitted on edge. Hello, here we go. I just started this knitted on edge. So I've done about this much more of the knitted on edge. And you can see, I was mentioning that I was a little bit concerned about the stitch definition not showing up, but you can really see a difference between these ribbed sections and then this stockinette section. So I'm not worried about that anymore. It's just that I have to do this back and forth all along here. I have a long way to go on this. The designer actually said that you use about as much yarn for the knitted on border as you do for the whole rest of the shawl. So it's a lot of knitting to go. The yarn that I'm using is just a random acrylic that I had, and it was a 6-ply, but it was super loosely plied and was actually really splitty. And I ended up splitting it down to 2-ply to make it more of a lace weight, light fingering weight, somewhere in there. Size 5 needles, nothing terribly fancy there. I actually think they're technically Addy Turbos, so I guess that is sort of fancy. Anyway, I've only done a little bit. I am more pleased with it because I'm not concerned about the stitch definition anymore, but I'm just not motivated to work on it. And I think it's because it is so much to do. Like, I'm only half done with the shawl, and I'm on the more complicated half. And so it just, like, the crochet gloves and the little baby booties were super fast to finish, so this feels like it's going to take forever. And so I'm like, I kind of want to finish things. And so on the one hand, I don't want to do this because I'm not anywhere near finishing it. But on the other hand, if I don't do it, I'm not going to finish it ever. Oh, and the other exciting thing is with these two projects, I'm counting the booties as one project, they're the same pattern. With those two done, This is the only yarn that I have left over from before I joined Ravelry. So I joined back in the end of 2013, I believe. And I knew how to knit before, and I knew how to crochet before, but I did some, but I didn't do a ton. And so when I joined Ravelry, I kind of like really got back into it and learned a lot about fiber, and I learned a lot about yarn weight. And so I got a much better idea of the types of projects that I like to do and the type of yarn that I wanted to do. So I had yarn left over from before I joined Ravelry that I was looking at, and I was like, I'm not super stoked about that. So this is the only yarn that I have left over from that time period. I'm trying to use up all my oldest yarn, kind of a thing. And so I also want to get this done, because if I get this done, then all of my yarn is from 2014 or later. And then I'll eventually use up the 2014 yarn, and it'll be 2015 and later. Obviously, I'm a little bit behind. My yarn buying is exceeding my yarn using, but what can you do? That happens to everyone, and at least I'm not as far ahead as some people, right? So that's that one. I want to work on it more. I just am not super motivated because it's got a long ways to go on it. Also, it's really dry in my apartment, so I've been getting like a sore throat from the dryness. Alright, so this next one is in a grocery bag, so sorry about the crinkles. I mentioned last time that I was probably going to forget to show you something because I was just kind of winging it and I didn't like sit down and write down every project I'd done, so I forgot to show you something, which I'm going to show you now. This is a, it's called Heirloom Cables Baby Sweater. It's a Lion brand yarn, Lion brand pattern, and it's this cute little baby sweater. Again, I'm making baby booties, I'm making a baby sweater. I make them to donate because they're quick and they're easy and they're cute, and it's good practice for making ones that are my size with obviously less yarn and time investment. I'm not planning on having a baby or anything, just so we're all clear on that. No babies. I don't do babies. This is the back of the sweater. It's a little bit more yellow-green than it seems to be showing up on the camera. And it's just Vanna's Choice acrylic. I think I'm knitting it on size 9 needles. So it's just moss stitch at the bottom, and then these really cute cables that are just, you know, closer and then further apart. So they make this really pretty pattern. Little back, and then I've started the left front. It's a little cardigan, so it's gonna have the back and then the left front, so that will be over here. And this will be attached, you know, this will be attached here, and it'll obviously go up to here, and then there'll be another side, and then sleeves, and then the button section. This is the inside, which kind of looks cool. Not as cool as the outside, though. So anyway, that is upside down is what that is. That is where I'm on this one. It's nice because it's a thicker, like Aran weight yarn, so it goes quickly, but it's not nice because it's a thicker Aran weight yarn and I don't like knitting with that size of yarn as much. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. But anyway, that's what I've gotten done on that. And then I guess I'll show you this to you now. I did have, it's not quite a haul because it's just one ball of yarn, but I got my hands on a bright red Peyton's Classic Wool Superwash DK weight yarn because I know this little dog, she's probably a Chihuahua Greyhound mix, so she's got super short fur, like she's got almost no fur on her neck and belly, so she wears sweaters a lot, but she's an Italian Greyhound, so she's really tall and she has a really long neck. So a lot of the commercial sweaters kind of hit her here, you know? And she's got this long neck with no fur. So I'm going to take, I've kind of looked at some Greyhound snood, they call them Greyhound snoods, that are basically just a tube that goes up the neck and kind of over the ears of the dog. So I'm going to, and I've not seen any really that I like for small dogs. So I'm just going to look at, there's a Greyhound pattern that I really like. It's like a ribbed with a little cable, it's cute. Anyway, I'm planning on making this dog a little snood thing. I'm not in a huge rush to get started. I do want to get it before it gets really cold because obviously she would like to wear this before this gets really cold. So I'm hoping maybe I'll finish up either the socks or the baby sweater and then cast this on. Should be fun, should be pretty quick. I'm hoping that her owner will give me permission to share her picture because she's going to be adorable in it. My baby sweater pattern is no longer in the bag with my baby sweater. That is a bad thing. So that's what I've been doing knitting and crochet wise. I almost thought I didn't have anything else to show you, but I actually have done a tiny bit in my other crafts category. I went back to making, let's see if I can show you, paper beads. So what these are, basically I have, well here, I actually have the box with the strips in it. So I have these long strips that I've cut out of magazines. This is actually out of a Knit Picks knitting catalog, yarn catalog. And you roll them up around a little tool, doohickey, but you can roll it around a toothpick too. You roll them up and they make these little beads out of paper. And depending on the pattern on the paper, you know, you get different looking beads, and some of them are more exciting than others. Like this is kind of a boring one, and this one's kind of cool. I think this is off of no, it's these two. These two actually came from a page that was nothing but pictures of the Knit Picks palette yarn colorways, so it was just basically stacked balls of yarn, so they're all colorful and stuff. Anyway, I've done some of these before. And they're not done yet. I just rolled them. I have a bunch more that I've just rolled that I need to glaze. So I've got like a whole bunch of hello, come on out. A whole bunch of these rainbow ones that I made out of some old origami paper that, like, it was a terrible. The way that they designed that paper was terrible. When you folded it, it didn't look rainbowy at all. So anyway, I was really glad to roll these into paper beads instead. And there's some that are just made out of like office paper that I actually colored so that they would come out in a specific pattern. And then, since I happen to have my jar of the finished ones here, basically once you have rolled them, you can see they're all shiny. And they're really hard, like you can't squish them at all. They're super lightweight because they're paper, and they kind of look like fancy glass beads. I mean, obviously they're not, but they kind of look vaguely like that. And these have just been sealed, so that way the fact that they're paper, they don't melt if they get water splashed on them, and then glazed so they're all shiny. Anyway, my plan is to kind of get this container decently full of just plain rolled ones and then glaze them all at once. So yeah, I don't have any huge plans for them. Afterwards, they're just fun to make, and I have some beads and some elastic cording, so I'll make like little bracelets out of them or whatever. Anyway, that's really the only non-stitching or yarny thing that I've done. I know that I tend to do more stitching and usually knitting. Crochet tends to hurt my wrists a little bit, so I tend not to do very many projects with it. Obviously, I did the gloves with them. So I tend to do more knitting and stitching than kind of other things, and I was thinking about it, and I think it's because the knitting and stitching, it's a lot easier to just have them sitting there with a pattern and I can come work on them at any time, whereas most of the other things that I do, I have to do some sort of designing with them. I have to think about them more, and sorry, it's dry here. And also, I have my stitching in, well, I can do my knitting in bed, and I have my stitching set up in a really comfy spot, and a lot of my other things end up needing to be at the desk, which is just less of a when I'm tired and I don't want to do anything, I'll sit in bed and knit and watch YouTube videos, whereas, you know, if I have to be up and there's glue around, because there's glue involved in doing paper beads, I was like, I don't really want to do that in bed, you know, so they tend to get done less because it's less of a, I'm going to randomly sit down and do it, and it's less of a, I'm tired, it's late, I'm going to sit and do this for a while before I go to bed. So anyway, my tentative plan is to come back in another 2 weeks. I'm hoping to kind of get on an every other Sunday, man, an every other Sunday filming schedule, because I think in 2 weeks I get a fair amount done, enough to show, you know, kind of a thing. And I'm hoping before the next 2 weeks are up, I'd like to finish either the socks or probably the socks, honestly. I'd like to finish the baby sweater, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Finish those up, because at the moment, the baby sweater's in a plastic bag. I don't have enough project bags for my current projects, so I'd like to get at least one of them out of there so I can not have things in that. I definitely want to finish the October, the October heart hanger piece before it's not October anymore, and I'd like to finish it with enough time to spare. If I can get it done in the next, like, 4 days, let me look at the calendar. Yeah, if I can get it done the next 4 days, I'll have several days before November, and I think the designer said that the November one might be a little bit late, so that would give me 4 days to maybe a week, depending on when the designer puts the actual pattern out, whether she gets it out on time or not, that I can work on some of my cross-stitching. I'd like to get, you know, I have the 4 Heavenly Beasts Heaven and Earth designs that I'm about 150 stitches away from a page finish, so if I can get that the November block done and I can get the page finish on that, that would be really cool. And then I have a lot of projects that are not, I have sewing projects that I don't think I've touched all year. I have projects that I really need to get working on that are not stitching or knitting, and that's why I was thinking about why am I not doing my not stitching or knitting projects, if that makes sense. I think I lost my train of thought. I have these projects. I really want to get them done. I'd like to get, so I'd like to get some sewing done before I come back in about 2 weeks. And the other thing that I really want to do is I had an idea for some greeting cards that I want to kind of design and make, that I'm hoping that I can make some progress on and, you know, have some to show next time, so we'll see if I even remember what all I said I wanted to do, but that's what I want to do for my next video. And I figured I would try saying what I wanted to do, and maybe that'll help me remember to, you know, actually pull the sewing projects out and work on them. Oh, and my spinning! I haven't done any spinning with my drop spindle in 4 or 5 months, probably. I should really get back to that, too. Anyway, that's where things are at. Not as many projects to show as last time, just because it wasn't 4 months. That's really the reason. And I think I've hit the, like, rambly and not sure how to say bye part. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that you liked it and that you found the projects interesting, and I hope that next time I will have the majority of what I said I wanted to get done actually done. And my dog was very good and didn't bark this time around. Say hi, Lily. So anyway, I guess I will see you all next time. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments. I'm happy to answer, and I will talk to you later. Bye!